everyone, RogueGold here. Welcome back to the Division 2. And today, it's been another season, and we've got another season finale. Today, I want to break down everything with Year 8 Season 1 Rise Up's Climax mission that we got this past week. I want to discuss the mission itself, the Master Mode, the lore implications, everything in between. Leading up to this, there was a lot of talk this season about how the narrative seemed to be quite light, and not a lot of setup was being done for this finale mission. So, did it pay off? How much really happened here? How satisfying was the mission overall? We'll get into all of it. It goes without saying, but this video will dive into full spoilers for the entirety of the Rise Up season, including comms and this mission. We are also going to be discussing spoilers from the Division Hunted novel later on in the video, but I will call out when that is about to happen in case you want to hear the rest of my thoughts before then. But yeah, let's just get straight to it. If you enjoyed this one and you want to stay looped in on all things Division 2 moving forward, then be sure to subscribe. Have to give a big shout out and thank you to our channel members as always. Thank you so much for watching the content and supporting me in the channel so that more of it can get made. I appreciate you endlessly. But without further ado, let's dive in. Alright, to begin, I want to kind of roll in mission and lore implications from the finale all into one, before we then go to fully dive into the story implications later on. So, I want to put this out before we go any further. The Pentagon is probably my least favorite main mission in the entirety of the Division 2. I never thought that its environments were overly amazing. It has many non-memorable encounters or bosses, like it's just overall pretty bland compared to much of what else the Division 2 offers. And so, add that to the fact that I was skeptical about this season's lore heading into the finale, which we'll get to momentarily. This mission was definitely fighting an uphill battle to win my approval, and while I can't say that it did that on all fronts, I will give credit to the fact that the gameplay and transformation of this space for the Climax experience, I did enjoy. If you've watched my reviews on these kinds of things before, then you'll know that I really do value the environmental transformations done for this type of content. If you're gonna make me replay a mission that I've already done a million times before, then there better be some effort made to make it feel different, unique, dare I say new. So unfortunately, while there were no new passageways created here, which is something that I always love to see them do when it does happen, I do think this mission starts out strong. It places us outside the Pentagon's walls in the small little open world area that is accessible if you travel to the Pentagon safe house in the main game. So to have that be repurposed for mission combat, plus the neat fortifications that are in place, the looming building with the blue lights shining up from it, they did a good job of setting up the scale and making it feel different from the jump. The rest of the mission is just fine. It's still the Pentagon, which again isn't my favorite. I did like the mechanics placed in here. I'm sure some people despised this shock hallway here. I thought it was a great change of pace. You know, Division's options for movement puzzles are often quite limited, so I appreciated the effort. And although it's rather basic, I did like the final boss room's mechanic of shooting the pylon tower whenever it opened up to prevent the shock effect from happening in the room. And that's the last bit of credit I'll give this mission. This room within the Pentagon mission always felt like the most unique of the entire mission to me. It's a large space, there's many different levels, tons of ways you can approach it. So I like the fact that they made this the final boss arena. I think it lends itself well to that climax, no pun intended. So that's about all I have to say on mission gameplay, but what about the story? Well, if you keep up with my lore videos, thank you on the one hand, but you may recall that I only did one during this entire season, and that was to share my view on how it felt like this season was rolling out with some very thin narrative elements. Essentially, all we got from the pre-season trailer and from the early comms that unlocked was Black Tusker attacking the city. Some people tried to argue that that was sufficient enough and that they were preparing to unveil something larger as we went on. That didn't really happen. If you truly want to sum it up, this entire season can be boiled down to this singular echo within the Climax mission, where Natalia Sokolova wanted the director to distract us while she hopped on a flight to Cabo. I'm kidding. She left DC. She wanted us in the dark on that as long as possible, and that is what motivated the Black Tusk's blitz attacks across the city. They were coordinated by the director, who we face and eliminate in this mission. That is about all we get. So my top level lore review of the season has to be pretty poor, right? There was very little that happened here, not much progression, character development, etc. Now, I do believe that that echo and the clues around the room that it is in do lead to a deeper meaning, which we'll discuss later in the video, but yeah, not much to speak on here. We do get the Manny and Barden combo back on the comms for this mission. I thought they were one of the best parts of Year 7 Season 2's finale at Tidal Basin. They were sorely missed last season. So, while again, not much happens with them, it is good to know that they're still around, especially Barden, who, in theory, should be leading us to all of these hidden bunkers that he knows about, but alas. Even from a comms perspective, this season was quite light. We only had 11 in total. There are 2 hidden comms within this Climax mission specifically, in case you missed them. The first is in this maintenance room. This is actually the very beginning of the regular Pentagon version mission, so soon after you enter the building itself. When you're in here, you just want to approach this door that's off to the right from the mission objective, open it up, and grab the comm inside. The second one is then right at the end of the shock gauntlet, if you will, the electrified hallways. As soon as you reach the end of it, before you open the blast door, if you head down this corridor, you will find one office door that can be opened, and the comm is awaiting you in there. Now, these 2 comms that you get are interesting. They're both logs left by Black Tusk surveillance personnel. One covers these 2 hyenas in downtown East who are apparently meddling with some kind of toxic concoction. And then the other follows these 2 outcasts in West End who come across a mystery figure, potentially a cleaner by the description of a garbage man, who proceeds to light them on fire and burn them on the spot. Seemingly random, seemingly disconnected. That said, we do know that next season is dealing with the hyenas gaining access to new toxic strains. We'll have to deal with that in the PvE Dark Zone. Could this simply be set up for that, and the outcast and cleaner one be teasing a future season? Certainly could be. Once again, we'll touch on this when we dive deeper into the lore in a minute. Last note on the comms, though, the hyena one has to get credit for giving us a new classic Division character exchange, that being...
You think this is the stuff that gives you chemtrails?
Gives you chemtrails? The fuck are you talking about?
You know, chemtrails!
Before we get to the lore breakdown, as always, I have to take a minute to discuss this mission's master difficulty, which, aside from lore revelations, is always my most anticipated part of a new finale. So, okay, this might prove to be controversial, but I thoroughly enjoyed this new master mission. I don't know if that's going to be a hot take or not. I was fortunately able to avoid spoilers the morning of this mission's release. The only thing that I ended up seeing on social media before jumping on stream to play was from more than one account saying that this master mission was their least favorite so far and that they left feeling disappointed. Typically, I tend to align with the community's opinion on master content, so I brace myself for disappointment, but man, I thought this was a total joy, and it was exactly what I hope to see from master content. It is very possible that the mismatched opinions here simply stem from expectations. As with any content, different types of people want different things from it. For many, I think they would prefer master to just be a slightly harder heroic, more ads, tougher ads, minor added mechanics. I'm not that way. I've stated in videos before that my favorite master mission still remains the very first one that we got at Space Administration. That felt completely transformed from the normal to heroic variant. There were legitimate mechanics added at multiple stages of the mission, ultimately making it feel like a mini incursion, which is what I think Master should aim to be. A lot of people didn't like that though, as naturally more mechanics makes things less matchmaking friendly. And so after that, we saw the team dramatically tone down mechanics and lean much more into combat, and it's kind of fluctuated since then. But this season's Master mission gave me the exact same feeling and vibes that that first ever Master did, which was so surprising and refreshing. It's mostly thanks to the 2 main encounters of the mission, much like you would have dedicated encounters in an incursion, those being the courtyard fight and then of course the final boss. If you happen to be watching the stream back on Tuesday, then you would know the first time I ran into that courtyard, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. The kill squad spawned, there's a timer, the helicopter is invulnerable, I was toast. And that was exactly when I went, oh my god, they've gone back to making Master actually difficult. Now, the mechanic here is not actually too difficult to get your head around once you understand it. It has basically been taken from the Boomer encounter in the Dark Hours raid, and I suppose that is a very fair piece of criticism if you want to give it, that this Master mission isn't as unique or bringing as much to the table as that original Theo Master mission did, but the result here is what I truly care about, and for me this just struck the perfect blend of combat intensity, mechanical depth, and encouraged team composition to make it truly feel like a master piece of content, like that aforementioned mini incursion. The courtyard fight in particular I thought was so fun. The rotations needed to disable the Boomer pylons, you need to take out the helicopter in time, you defeat BTSU Team 9, which you do have to suspend disbelief a little bit since we've been murdering them in retaliation all season, but it was nice to see them given their narrative connection to the director. Then you get to the final boss arena. There's now 2 shock pylons which are pulsing more frequently, so you're always needing to watch for those panels to flip up for you to disable it. We had a healer on both main encounters, and it was great to see the mission actually require something like that. The health values of enemies felt adequate and challenging, even with prototype gear now being in the mix. So, all in all, this Master mission is now in a close race with the original Space Admin Master, for which is my favorite. I've not fully decided, but let me know your thoughts on it. I'll be curious to know if that is actually a hot take, or maybe I just happen to see a few opposing opinions in a row that skewed my perspective. Let me know. Alright, well now that we've covered everything else, I want to get a bit deeper into the lore breakdown as for what we're seeing here in this mission. As mentioned, this one Echo in the control room really is the main plot point of this mission and season. In case you haven't played it and you just watch these videos for the recap, then here it is.
Mr. Sykes, impressive work getting this all set up.
It's what I do.
What do you estimate for your operational throughput?
We'll be able to carry out sustained high-volume operations for several weeks at least. More if we're given logistical priority.
Several weeks is more than sufficient. I don't expect you to hold the city. Just ensure the division are looking at you and not elsewhere.
Ma'am?
I'll be leaving DC shortly. I'd prefer that information stay off their radar as long as possible.
I see. Am I to understand that we'll be drawing down operations in the city?
I'd think you, of all people, would appreciate the value of multitasking, Mr. Sykes.
So, okay, Natalia's left DC, but why? Why does that matter? Why does she not want us to know? So this is the point in the video where I mentioned that we're going to be diving into spoilers from the Division Hunted novel. If you've not read this and you don't want to know spoilers from it, then you're going to want to bail out, but thank you for watching up until now. Alright, you're still here. For any who aren't familiar with the story, The Division Hunted is the third novel in a trilogy of books that is set roughly concurrent to The Division 2's current timeline. However, books 2 and 3 make a time leap to go beyond where our current seasons are at. As far as we know, Year 8 Season 1 should be taking place around early November, whereas Compromise, the second book, takes place in April of the following year. And then Hunted goes even further into the July and August window. This is all relevant because Natalia Sokolova, our primary antagonist in the ongoing Division 2 story, and who's now saying that she's leaving DC in this mission, she is alive in the Hunted book timeline, and we know that because she physically appears and is a character in that book. And the other interesting detail is that we see her far, far away from Washington, D.C., as she is within a Black Tusk compound in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I find that to be particularly interesting when you take into consideration this map that is being displayed on the wall behind where the Echo is located in the mission. It shows a sector of the more western side of the US, including California, Oregon, bits of Idaho. Of course, you have Nevada, Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Colorado are in there. However, there's one name that for some reason is far larger and more prominent than any other, and that is New Mexico. So, if you want my working theory, I believe that this is the game's way of acknowledging that the books had established a precedent that Natalia was still alive months ahead in the timeline, and that this is their way of conveniently writing her out of the story for an undisclosed amount of time. In a prior video, we talked about how the team recently went in and removed the dates listed for each legacy manhunt in the game, making it harder to track the actual passage of time between these seasons, and so it wouldn't shock me at all if we continue to pivot away from the main storyline for a bit, like with the Hyena and Outcast threads that were previously mentioned, and then a couple of seasons down the road, assumedly sometime before the Division 2 winds down to transition to the Division 3, Natalia then would re-enter the picture, and at that point they can say, oh, a couple of months have passed, this is now beyond the Hunted timeline, or maybe they just keep her out entirely and save that whole plotline for the Division 3 itself. Who knows? But I would be shocked if that New Mexico ping on the map and Natalia making a big deal out of her leaving DC is not a way to subtly acknowledge Hunted and its story implications. As for what she is doing out there, why she leaves DC, it's actually a really awesome book and trilogy. If you have not read them and you're into the story, then I highly recommend. In short, she is pursuing some creative new ideas for how to take down the Division. It very much ties into the threads that were set up a while back in the season storyline with Keener, mobile shade servers, the Isaac, Anna, and Diamond dynamic. And so that's why I wonder if we are now seeing her depart from the ongoing Division 2 timeline, at least for now, so that they can reset things, if you will, try and get everything aligned before they potentially reintroduce her for a larger showdown. We'll see. As always, I could be entirely wrong on that. but that is my working theory for now. Well, there you have it, folks. That is my breakdown for the Year 8 Season 1 Rise Up finale. A bit of a mixed bag. I thought the mission itself was solid, did some heavy lifting to make it a bit more appealing than the base Pentagon version. I adored Master difficulty this time around, and while the actual surface level story to follow along with was incredibly bare bones, I am intrigued by what the Echo and the clues left in that room hint at in relation to the larger universe and where we may be headed. So at this point, I would love to get any and all thoughts that you may be thinking after this latest Climax mission. What did you think about the gameplay here, whether it be on the normal version or on Master? What did you think about the story implications, whether or not you are somebody who follows along with the larger universe here in the novels? Let me know. I'll be curious to hear it. That is about everything I have for this one, though. Thank you all so much for coming by and tuning in as always. I will catch you back soon, but until then, RogueGold. Ow. Oh! We just got a Ravenous! I might not be friendly. Let's go.
Coming to the Division 2.
Let's go!
And